Donald Trump had a day off from court today, but on Tuesday, the political plastic showed up still trying to make fetch happen. A collection of puppets swearing there are no strings attached and hoping they show enough loyalty to Trump to be VP, and it's gonna be them. The Red Tie Gang followed the example set by other Trump surrogates who showed up in New York this week, including House Speaker Mike Johnson.
The judge inside, his daughter is making millions of dollars running against Donald Trump, raising money for Donald Trump's political opponents.
I'm sitting there listening to a guy on the stand that they had to get out of house arrest because he lied in another court.
The judge's own daughter is making millions of dollars doing online fundraising for Democrats.
You've got relatives of the judge that are benefiting financially.
The only thing that's being done wrong is by this judge. His daughter's making money, raising money for Democrats.
The real bookkeeping that we need accounting of is Judge Merchan's own family member collecting millions of dollars as a Democratic operative.
If it seems like there's a theme, there is. The attacks on Judge Juan Merchan's daughter and star witness Michael Cohen fall under Merchan's expanded gag order for Donald Trump. Trump's already been fined $10,000 for violating it and faces possible jail time for future violations. Also, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville admitted on right-wing TV.
Hopefully we have more and more senators and congressmen go up every day to represent him and be able to go out and overcome this gag order. And that's one of the reasons we went, is to be able to speak our piece for President Trump.
Meanwhile, New York Magazine journalist Andrew Rice told our colleagues last night that he witnessed something interesting in the courtroom.
Well, in court yesterday, actually, I was sitting close enough that I could actually look over Trump's shoulder and see what he was reading. At one point, he was actually reading the quotes that these individuals were, and going through and making notations with a pen on the paper.
Before or after?
While testimony was going on, while Michael Cohen was testifying against him, he was actually going through and annotating and editing the quotes that these people were going to say.
Look, NBC News can't independently confirm Rice's personal testimony, but it's worth noting, regardless, that Judge Merchan's expanded gag order bars Trump from making or directing others to make public statements about witnesses and the family of courtroom participants. Joining me now to discuss is Yodit Tawalde, former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, and Brian Tyler Cohen, MSNBC contributor and host of the No Lie podcast. Yodit, I will start with you. So, look, this is confusing to me.
Okay.
I thought we were at a point where nobody liked ghostwriters anymore, but clearly that's what Donald Trump wants to do here with these puppets that he's got outside. Who is that actually helping? Because it would seem to me, maybe the jury doesn't know that he's doing this, but I don't know that the public would necessarily like it. It's not necessarily going to affect the prosecution at all. What's the value of having these surrogates out there talk smack about the judge who's overseeing the case that you're in?
Well, it's clear that Donald Trump only cares about his campaign. That's all he cares about, right? Mm-hmm. The jury is not looking, they're not supposed to look at media at all about this trial. These individuals that are walking in the front row, in the courtroom being disruptive while Michael Cohen's testifying is not appropriate, but I don't think the jury actually knows who they are, right? What would matter for the jury, I think, is to see Donald Trump's family, not politicians, right? To see his family support him through this, I think would win big with the jury, but of course, there's no family members there. I think maybe one of his sons were present. I'm not sure, but This is purely to influence the elections because he can't be out on the road campaigning like he wants to because he's a criminal defendant.
Brian, this is the other part that gets me. So the criticism from all of these sort of no strings attached puppets, right? That Donald Trump
these little right wing NPCs.
Yes, his little right wing NPCs that he's got. It's going to be me. They're all hoping to be picked for VP. They're complaining that Judge Merchan's daughter is making money off of this, and yet Laura and Eric Trump they're fundraising off of this. They literally filmed an ad inside the courthouse with Trump's red tie surrogates and an appearance from Donald Trump. I mean, I know hypocrisy is not new here, But again, who is the audience for this? Because it seems to me that this seems to weaken whatever argument that the NPCs are playing.
Yeah, I mean, there's gambling in this casino, right? I think at this point, Donald Trump is just vying to win in the court of public opinion. And we've seen reporting also that he's instructed his attorney to go harder against the witnesses, harder against Stormy Daniels. Obviously not something that's going to redound to his benefit as far as the jury is concerned.
Right.
But I don't think he really cares about that. This whole thing, to your exact point, is that this is all about the campaign. And Donald Trump is just trying to win a campaign. This is all an extension of his campaign. And if he wants to campaign as the tough guy, then he's going to do whatever he has to do in the courtroom or out to seem like the tough guy.
What's my strategy? I'm a Trump defense attorney.
Okay.
I went at Michael Cohen, right? He didn't break, right? He didn't break so far. So far. What's the thing that if I am Trump's defense attorney, I've got to get out of Michael Cohen to save my case? Because he's the guy. He's the person that if you can discredit him, hopefully the whole thing falls apart like Jenga.
I think what they're trying to do is bring out the Michael Cohen that he is outside of the courtroom, who he has been, right? Well documented how much he hates Trump, especially on his podcast, his books, anywhere he can talk in the media. He's talking about Trump and he's talking about how he wants him to go to prison. What we have seen so far on direct with Michael Cohen is a calm, cool, collected. He's been rehearsed. He's been, the prosecutors have worked with him over the past year about how he's going to answer these direct questions. But on cross-examination, what the defense wants to do is rattle him. They want the jury to see the bad side of Michael Cohen, right? To react. And I'm not sure if they did that on their first day at cross-examination. I think because the defense has so much to work with, they have so much in their arsenal, I don't think that they really landed some major punches. But they get another chance tomorrow, and what they want to do is get him out of character and really catch him in a lie as well.
So here's the thing. Michael Cohen's been very clear about this, right? He doesn't like Trump. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. He's made it really clear for years now. He can't stand this guy. Does that necessarily make you less credible? The man went to jail. I mean, I don't. So you're saying that doesn't necessarily even help? The first question that the defense asked Stormy Daniels when they were cross-examining her is, do you like the defendant? Or do you hate the defendant? And she said yes. That gave her points because she could have lied and said, well, I don't have any ill will towards a man, but she was being honest about her feelings. So it's well documented, I think, throughout the entire testimony or prosecution's case through other witnesses. His social media, just a few days before he took the stand, he was wearing a T-shirt with Donald Trump in an orange jumpsuit behind bars. So it's very well documented. I don't think that really matters. I think what they need to do is produce, his lies. I think he might have lied on Tuesday. Right. If he lied on Tuesday, he could be lying to you. So you can't believe anything that this man says. He has motive. He has a personal and financial investment in seeing Donald Trump get convicted. And so that's what they want to keep, really demonstrating to the jury and make that argument in closing arguments.